So we're back to finish up the league we started yesterday. As a friendly reminder, if you like what you're seeing on the channel, please consider subscribing, give us a thumbs up, leave a constructive comment down below. So, right now, a couple of things going on with the channel. Finished up this Burn League for today. We'll get back to streaming live on Twitch probably tonight, depending on how tired I am after going to see Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker and date with my girlfriend. But for right now, we're finishing up this league. Then we're going to be switching over and doing some Vampires and Historic for Standard Nexus MTG. Been slacking a little bit on content this week. Finished graduating, so kind of trying to find the direction of job searching for accounting jobs, as well as what direction, or I should say what role Magic is going to play ultimately. So this hand's a bit of a gamble. Are these three enough to justify keeping a one-lander? Goblin Guide's getting in for 2, possibly 4. 7, 10 damage, draw a land, second land, the first couple draw steps were good. We don't draw a land, we're in some trouble, we still have some plays. I think this hand has a high enough upside to risk keeping, although it is certainly risky to keep a one-lander, especially on the play. So one thing we continued discussing from yesterday is first part of the league is sometimes it's just okay, so Tron or some type of Tron variant. Yeah. Not quite sure which version it is yet. Could be E-Tron, so I'm actually going to run out the confirmed Eldrazi Tron. This out of my hand. The sooner we get our 1-drops out of our hand, the less devastating a Chalice is. When it gets a Dismember. So a virtual 5. I guess they actually won't be drawing this member anyway. Radiant Fountain. Oh, you just have Tron in your hand. Cool. Potentially outside of another Matter Shaper lets me hit exactly lethal. So that land was actually a very good draw. So update the sideboard guide, but should still give me some idea how much I usually board in and out in this matchup. E-Tron can be a tricky one sometimes. Usually Searing Blazes and Eidolons. Bringing any copies of Path. Skull Crack and Smash. Could also bring in copies of Wear Tear potentially. I don't know there's a high enough upside on that, even with Chalice. I usually like to bring in Wear Tear when I'm either facing down actual enchantments or when there's certain cards that I just can't beat. Chalice is, well, one of their better tools against us. Not always something you want to overboard for. We'll go ahead and try it like this. I don't want to flood on anti-artifact stuff. This hand's got a lot less upside with all the 2-drop spells. So I think this hand's a mulligan, especially on the draw. This hand isn't great. I think it's a keep pitching one of the lands. It's possible I'm supposed to use my fetch lands first, but see if they get them Dismember. I get them a power plant, so they have 2 of 3 pieces of Tron. Very easily it could have like Spatial Contortion here or something. And that's fine though. It's gonna be hard for us to win this game anyway, especially when they have natural Tron. Chalice on 2 or Walking Ballista. Okay. Nice deck building. Main thing I needed to see there was a clock. Chalice on 2, huh? Still don't think that changes how we sideboard. 4 landers, no 1-drop. This hand's much more reasonable. The question becomes, what do we put back? Probably Boros Charm. Again, could get punished by Chalice here. Chalice on 1. No, Special Contortion, sure. Gonna be hard to win this game from here if they have any type of... Okay, so they're on a slower draw at least. Mindstone, sure. Feels like Chalice or Ballista. Somewhat regret getting cheeky with the smash now. I'm just gonna get locked out under Chalices, aren't I? So basically I only have rift bolts and skewers to draw to. I think that means we're officially dead here. So the only real decision to be made in those games, outside of the mulligan decision in game 1, the decision to use Smash on that map could be debated. In the end, that would have ended up with them on having Tron on 3, which would have been potentially worse than even the game played out. We could have smashed a Chalice on 1. Maybe they would have been incentivized to play another Chalice on 1. It's possible we could have gotten these two down, which I'm not sure how much they might have made the difference for the victory here. But it's pretty much the only decision point we truly had in that matchup. But once again, not a fantastic matchup for Burn, and even sometimes when you're playing well, you still just don't win. Anyways, on to the final match. I really don't know what the takeaway is for the last couple weeks. It's just like I know we haven't run into the best matchups. We've had good draws. We've struggled to win games. It's possible Burns just not in a good spot right now. It's possible. Yeah, a lot of things are possible right now. It's really kind of hard to say what should be going on with Burn. There's been people doing high finishes in these prelims with it. There's been people still doing well in the challenges. I do know that both D2 Dryden in his last couple streams, or his last couple video postings, and myself both haven't been doing particularly well with lists. His obviously varies a little bit different than mine. Was running Bone Crusher Giant in his last list, etc. But I also know that he doesn't actually show all of his content necessarily, or all of his gameplay. He was like showing on his Twitter account some different things, like he was showing I think Burn with Oko in it and some other stuff, which I find the idea intriguing. But at the same time, what does that speak to the modern format and to Burn in general, that you're having to potentially skewer your deck so much to play Oko in it? Beyond that, it's really kind of hard to sometimes handle the ebbs and flows of being a Magic grinder. It's one of the things I wanted to try to get a feel for a little bit better this year. I tend to be very flaky with how much I play. Sometimes I'll play, 7, 8, 9 leagues in a week, or the equivalent thereof with Arena and such. Other weeks I only play like 1 or 2 leagues. It's really kind of hard to get a gauge on like what it feels to really be, a person that like takes Magic seriously for a living, or it makes Magic their living. Ultimately, that's something I would like to do, but for right now, this is just kind of a side venture. Burn's been the primary thing on the channel. We're getting into some other stuff. I separated the channel into Pioneer, Modern, and to a lesser extent Legacy on this channel, And then I have a standard channel that does both standard and historic. So basically, MTGO versus Arena clients right now. Obviously, this is the more established one. I've done more stuff with the modern format with burn and such over the years. For those of you that don't know a bit of my backstory, I've won one PPTQ, made the finals of another, and scooped to the individual because I wouldn't be able to go to the regional Pro Tour qualifier anyway. The last two GPs I've actually been in the main event. I've day 2'd. So I've had some reasonable success whenever I've decided to pursue Magic. It's just been with life, with work sometimes, I was in school for the last 6 years between undergrad and grad school. So it's been difficult to take Magic as seriously as I would like sometimes. And sometimes it's just, laziness, hard to create content consistently if you're wanting to have somewhat of a life sometimes. So, Sand's good. Usually 2 lands are ideal. 3 is on the edge of flooding a little bit. Goblin Guide and Eidolon is usually pretty good, backed up by Bolt and Skewer. Sand's obviously a very easy keep, especially on the play. If we lose with this hand, obviously we're just not having the best of things here. Birds of Paradise. Oh, okay. Well then. Everybody say hi to Ponza. Hi, Ponza. Oh. That's just savage. Holding up Boros Charm here to protect our lands. Or just go to their face. And our opponent scoops. Alright, been a minute since I've seen good old Ponzetta. So definitely want the Skull Cracks. Skull Cracks, the Searing Bloods. Potentially the Smashes, definitely the Firecrafts. So the goal here is ultimately I would like to get all white cards out of my deck. So they showed us Trinisphere. Curious how many red green control, really? It's called Ponza. Morons. Guess we'll leave it like this, and if they show us anything beyond Trinisphere, I might bring in Smash for game 3. It's kind of a painful hand. No way to interact with a Mana Dork on 1, but I still think we keep it. Notably, our opponent doesn't have a second land, which means their hand was very much a gamble. Opponent concedes, sure. So, takeaway on the second part of the video. I think the takeaway here is a couple fold. I don't know that wear tear, at least 2 copies is completely necessary. I think 2 copies of Smash is fine. I think I like the rest of the sideboard the way it was set up. Just a matter of finding those last couple of slots. There's certainly some matchups we could have used. The 4th copy of Have to Exile, the E-Tron matchup, the Humans matchup, which that's the second. I think that's the second league in a row, second or third league in a row we've played Humans, at least some number of times. The issue, like, we ran into some bad matchups. I mean, that's certainly part of it. Drudge, Eldrazi, Tron, Humans. Ponza's not a fantastic matchup. It's winnable, probably slightly favorable for Burn, because they're a ramp deck, so they do have the ramp deck problems sometimes. But part of this is Magic variance. Part of it, there's a few play lines here or there I could have taken differently. Had an interesting discussion about the mono red prowess play line. Someone pointed out the wall and then they were tapped out. I could have played Boros Charm, potentially saving my creatures. The problem with that was there was another Lava Dart in the graveyard they had access to that would have put them to 3, but we would have been tapped out and we still would have been lethal. So it's interesting, the discourse that Burn can provide. There's not terribly many decisions to make with Burn. Most of your decisions are, like most aggro decks, are in your opening hand. Do you keep? Do you maul? Do you use your Burn on their face or their creatures? At what point do you switch from trying to control the board to trying to just melt their face? Those are some of the decisions that Burn affords people. Most people think Burn's a very simple deck to play. On the surface, it certainly is. Red decks do require some amount of finesse in more intricate situations, but a lot of times you don't really have control over what you got. Your opening hand is basically what you have to work with, and then beyond that, you could draw all lands, you could draw all spells, mixture of both. There's no manipulation with Boros Space Burn, at least. Could play something like Experimental Frenzy, could play Lay at the Stage, but those cards are kind of ineffectual, especially in Modern, generally speaking. I have seen one of our local Burn players play Experimental Frenzy on the sideboard. It's interesting. I don't know that it's good, but it's interesting. Other considerations, you could, mess with other colorations, but don't really think in the end messing with like either Narcotic Burn or Rakdos would meaningfully impact a lot of the matchups we've lost in the last 2 leagues. But I do think it's interesting to take a look internally whenever you've had some rough patch of a couple leagues and such. Is there something wrong with the build of the deck? Is it the deck itself? Is it play lines, etc.? I do think it's sometimes good to take a step back and go back and watch. Were there any mistakes or anything, or was it just bad luck? So I think that's something I'll be doing over the next couple days, taking a look at these series of 3 videos from last week's Complete League, and then this week's the league split up over 2 days. So anyways, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. A friendly reminder, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, giving us a thumbs up, and leaving a constructive comment down below.